Ritchie Blackmore is undoubtedly one of the most influential and iconic guitarists in the history of rock music. While the title of the greatest guitarist of all time is subjective and varies depending on individual preferences,
I was such a poor pupil and I was always near the bottom of class in my tests. I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to excel in music on the guitar. So they go, well, he was a terrible pupil, but he's a really good guitar player. And I had that thought in my head ever since I was 12 onwards. Well, he doesn't know anything, but he can really play the guitar. And I always wanted the teachers to say that.
There are several compelling arguments for why Ritchie Blackmore deserves to be recognized as one of the greatest guitarists in rock history.
And this is before Hendrix, so Ritchie really is a great originator and creator of the wild electric guitar.
To me, he was like the Caucasian Hendrix.
Ritchie Blackmore didn't just play the guitar, he redefined how it could be played in rock music.
He was such an advanced musician, way ahead of his time. Way ahead.
In a lot of ways, it's a little tragic that Ritchie didn't stand up and shine the light on himself, which is why I'm happy to be here. He needs the light right on him because, unlike many people, he actually deserves it.
He brought in neoclassical scales and intricate phrasing that hadn't really been done before in rock, especially in songs like Highway Star. Ritchie Blackmore's guitar solo on Deep Purple's classic 1972 track Highway Star is often hailed as one of the greatest and most mind-blowing solos in rock history.
Highway Star. I'd written the solo basically at home, worked it out, which I'd never done before. It was always on the fly, as they go, just jamming. But so we had a lot of constructive ideas. Roger Glover had written Maybe I'm a Leo, which I thought was a great tune.
It's a blistering display of technical skill, speed, and compositional brilliance that continues to awe guitarists and fans alike. So what makes this solo so iconic and, as many describe it, downright crazy?
Highway Star that's crazy. That's just a crazy song for a guitar player. It makes everyone who thinks they're a guitar player need to pick up their guitar and see, well, if I'm that good, can I do that?
One of the defining aspects of Blackmore's solo on Highway Star is his integration of classical music elements into a hard rock framework. Blackmore was heavily influenced by classical composers, and this influence is apparent in his intricate arpeggios and harmonic choices.
How we start? We wrote that in Switzerland, and the middle part was like arpeggios. It's like a Mozart piece. I was impressed by Mozart in those days. I knew him quite well. He wasn't at all well when I knew him. He didn't look like he was full of life.
The solo is meticulously composed rather than being purely improvised, giving it a sense of structure akin to a Baroque piece.
Ritchie was really looking to expand on his solos and wanted a particular sequence, which is actually almost a classical sequence. It's probably the defining moment for Ritchie's soloing, Highway Star, to me. It's the most recognizable solo. I like solos where you know them, It's solos where it's just a nothing. So I think Highway Star was just stunning for that effect.
The use of harmonic minor scales, along with arpeggiated runs, creates a neoclassical vibe that was groundbreaking for rock music at the time.
When Ritchie Blackmore's guitar performances were different to anything else. They weren't a copy of Hendrix, even though you could hear little bits of notations that maybe led towards Hendrix. They weren't a copy of anybody else. They were influenced by, yet taking its own direction. He had a classical feel, a Baroque feel, and a rock and roll feel.
While many of his contemporaries were rooted in blues scales and pentatonic patterns, Blackmore's willingness to draw from classical music gave the solo a unique and highly technical edge.
Highway Star solo was one of the first things I could get my head around. Even when I was like 16 or 17, wasn't the standard notes you'd use. It wasn't just the blues scale. It was, there was classical stuff coming in there. And with this aggression,
Another reason why Blackmore's solo stands out is the sheer speed and precision with which he executes it. The rapid alternate picking and seamless transition between scales and arpeggios demand incredible dexterity and control.
I went through a period of shredding and thinking that everything revolved around speed. And now I go, it really doesn't mean anything. It's good to be fast now and again, but you have to say something thoughtful. You can't just go, look at me. Am I not great?
No, it's not just speed. There's a lot of people who can play fast, now, but they can't be Ritchie Blackmore.
The solo's tempo is frenetic, reflecting the high-energy, adrenaline-pumping nature of the song itself, but it never sounds sloppy or uncontrolled.
He is measured, he is thoughtful, he knows the value of clear space, of daylight between the notes. It's not all about it's about phrasing, it's about time, it's about that the spaces are as important as the notes that they separate.
Every note is crisp and purposeful. In an era where guitarists were pushing the boundaries of speed, Blackmore was one of the pioneers, laying the groundwork for the shred guitarists of the 1980s, like Yngwie Malmsteen and Paul Gilbert.
It's like a sword, almost like a clean, sharp sword that weighs a real lot, His precision when he plays was stunning.
One of the most memorable parts of the Highway Star solo is Blackmore's use of exotic scales, particularly the Hungarian minor scale, which gives parts of the solo an Eastern European, almost otherworldly feel. This, combined with his use of classical arpeggios, sets the solo apart from the typical rock guitar approaches of the time.
I always thought American players always go right to the edge of the cliff and fall off and wave as they're going down. But the British players seem to take that one half a step back from the cliff, and so it's together right to the end of the song, but it's still extremely thrilling.
And Ritchie was a figure of mystery and wonder already. Ritchie Blackmore was something incredible. I mean, nobody could play like that in those days.
Blackmore's choice of scales adds a dramatic and tension-filled character to the solo. While some guitarists rely on simple repetition or familiar patterns to build intensity, Blackmore's innovative approach introduces fresh melodic ideas at every turn.
He's a fireball, he really is, he's beyond belief. His technique is incredible. Where did that come from? I have no idea.
The solo is not just about technical prowess, it's about energy. From the moment the solo begins, it's a sonic assault that perfectly complements the raw, driving power of the rest of the song. The tension never lets up, with each section building on the last.
The true pioneer, as somebody who was truly unique and original.
Blackmore's phrasing, rapid-fire licks, and virtuosic runs give the listener no time to catch their breath, making it an exhilarating experience from start to finish. It's an example of how a solo can become an integral part of a song, amplifying its excitement and reinforcing its character.
He plays right on the money and leaves enough space to allow the music to breathe and the listener to become enveloped in the whole atmosphere of what's being performed and created and generated.
On Highway Star, the solo is more than just a display of skill. It's a crucial element in what makes the song so iconic.
The funny thing about that song is that having played it, you can get carried away with the emotion of the song, the intensity of it, of what you're doing, and it ruins it in a way. And that's part of Ritchie's charm for me, is his restraint at the right moments, and it creates a lot of drama in his parts.
Despite its wild, seemingly off-the-cuff energy, the solo is brilliantly composed. Blackmore meticulously planned it, using ascending and descending lines to create tension and release. He balances fast runs with more melodic, sustained notes, providing moments of contrast that keep the listener engaged throughout the duration of the solo.
Ritchie will take you on a couple of hours journey of guitar playing, which will cover a lot more ground. It's not just like, tipping a pot of multicolored paint over somebody. This is about drawing people into your dark, mysterious web.
Unlike some solos that meander, Blackmore's has a clear narrative arc. It feels like a journey, taking the listener from a place of frenzied intensity to a satisfying conclusion, rather than being a random collection of fast licks and tricks.
It's a mystery. I still find Ritchie Blackmore a complete mystery. It's also a mystery that people don't talk about him that much. It's odd because he is absolutely there as one of the pioneers.
The tone of Blackmore's guitar is iconic. His signature Fender Stratocaster, coupled with his use of Marshall amplifiers, delivers a biting, aggressive sound that cuts through the mix perfectly.
The way he holds the guitar and everything, that's, sort of ingrained in my mind as that's what a cool guitar player is supposed to look like. That's how they're supposed to behave.
The clarity of his tone allows every note in the solo to stand out, even at high speeds. This distinctive tone became a defining feature of Deep Purple's sound and helped to cement Blackmore's place among the greatest guitarists of all time.
It became, I suppose, obvious to all of us that they were not just another flash-in-the-pan pop rock band, but there was something more of substance.
Ritchie Blackmore's guitar solo on Highway Star is more than just fast or technically impressive. It's a masterclass in blending classical music with rock, using innovative scales, and crafting a solo that fits perfectly within the song's structure while standing out as an iconic moment in its own right. Its energy, precision, and creativity make it one of the craziest and most memorable solos in rock history.
It was a game changer. I thought Machine Head was a game changer myself.
Even decades later, guitarists and fans are still dissecting and admiring this incredible piece of musical artistry.
It actually changed my life. It was my first gig ever. We got right up against the stage, right in front of Ritchie. He came out, Purple came out, and he just blew me away. It was way more than I expected. It was just a lot. And, after that, I was like dazed. I went home to my mum and dad. I said, I need a guitar. I have to have a guitar.